everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video. If you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that is something you are interested in, go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, before we get started, the only thing that you will need to do is download the color palette. I have it linked in the description below. It's totally free to download. Just open up the file that downloads and it'll automatically pop into Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. I will also post the canvas dimensions, color profile, and layers needed on the screen here so that you can use those to set up your canvas. So take a minute to get everything ready and then come back and we'll get started. Okay, this is the color palette that we will be working with today. So we are just going to go ahead and start with our background. So our background is going to be a blue color with some darker blue around the edges. So to achieve that effect so that it's lighter in the middle, darker on the edges in kind of a circular shape, we are going to just be on layer 1 here. We're going to grab our first color on the first row of the color palette and drag and drop that to fill the screen. That's our really dark blue color. Then to get a little bit lighter in the middle, we are going to stay on the same layer, grab our second color on the top row of our color palette, grab the monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. Go ahead and just set it to 100%. And we are just going to draw a circle. Hold it down. Touch your finger to the screen to make it a perfect circle. Go ahead and click this circle button at the top, and now we're just going to position it. So we're just going to drag it around until it's roughly in the middle. And we do want it to be pretty big, so I'm going to have it pretty much touch like all of my edges. So I'm going to increase the size until I get it about there. So we'll just have our darker color mostly in the corners. So adjust it until you have it where you'd like it, and then go ahead and drag and drop to fill it in with this lighter color. If you overfill it like this, just go ahead and undo it. Go again to drag and drop it and hold your pen on the screen and then drag the threshold down to the left so that you only fill inside the circle. Okay, but once we have our circle laid out with our darker color on the edge, we are going to blur this all together. So to do that, we will go to our wand icon, click Gaussian Blur, and we'll drag this up to a good 60% somewhere in there to get a really nice gradient. Okay, so that's it for our background. So now we're just going to jump straight into making our moon. So this is going to be a super fun process with lots of different layers of different colors and things. So we are going to go to our layer menu, add a new layer on top, grab the first color on the second row of our color palette. These are going to be all of our moon colors. Same monoline brush at 100% to just draw our initial circle here. So a circle shape, hold it down till it turns into a perfect shape, and then touch your finger to the screen to make it a perfect circle. Go ahead and set the size pretty much anywhere you like. We can resize this later, but I'm just going to go with a nice, medium to large size circle here, and then go ahead and drag and drop that to fill it in. Again, we don't need to worry about like centering or anything right now. We're just going to jump straight into all of our moon textures and layers and different colors and stuff. So the first thing that we're going to do is go to our layer menu. We are going to add a new layer above this layer. Click on it and set it to a clipping mask. So we are going to add all of our different textures and colors as a clipping mask to our circle shape here. And the beauty of a clipping mask is just that we can have multiple clipping masks all clipped to this shape, and then we can change the layer styles on some, we can delete some, we can edit some without affecting everything else going on our shape here. So the other option obviously that we do sometimes is to set this circle layer to alpha lock and then draw straight on it. We would draw all of our different colors and things, and it still wouldn't go outside the line, which is obviously our goal. So it would still stay to our shape, but then you can't edit anything afterwards. Like, we're going to lay down multiple layers of darker grays, and if you decided that you didn't like one of the grays that you laid down initially, you can't go back and change it as easily as when you have a clipping mask. So the clipping mask lets us add, again, multiple layers so that we can change them as needed. And then at the end, once we like the way the things look, we can snap them all onto one layer here to our main circle layer so that they're all just one layer. That obviously mainly just helps save layers and just kind of clean things up. Anyway, so our first clipping mask here is just going to be like a nice texture layer to add some initial texture to our moon. So the whole thing. So we are first going to click the N on this layer to open up our menu, and we are going to drag this down to overlay. Then we are going to grab the second color on the second row of our color palette. And for our brush to add some nice texture, we are going to use the clay brush under the organic category. So find that. We're going to set that to maybe 30%. And I'm just going to drag this all over the moon to create this nice clay texture here, to make it look very moon-like. That already helps a lot. So this is a little bit too dark. I don't want it quite so bright and so textured. So I'm going to go to my layer menu, and on this layer here, I'm going to click the O again to open up my menu and drag this opacity down to maybe like 60 to 65%, somewhere in there, just to lighten it up a little bit, but still leave us with some good texture. Okay, so now we'll go to our layer menu, add another new layer. Again, click on it and set it to a clipping mask, and it will clip to our original shape, but we are going to leave this one on just normal layer style, so I don't need to mess with that. But we are going to grab the third color on the second row. And now for our next textury brush that we're going to use to make like all the spots and shadows on our moon, we are going to use the fresco brush under the painting category. Okay, so we are essentially going to get darker and darker grays. So the lighter the gray, the bigger blobs we're going to make. The darker the gray, the smaller blobs we're going to make, and we're going to kind of layer them all on top of each other. So you'll see as we go, but this is going to be our first essential blobby layer. So we'll set our brush to maybe 15%. And essentially, to make this look pretty realistic, one of the biggest things about the moon is that it isn't all covered in spots and shadows. It's kind of got just like big sections of shadow and then sections without, where it's kind of more bare. So we're not just going to draw blobs all over it. So we're going to essentially, with our first color here, make one large blobby section. So I'm just going to start in like the top left here, kind of close to the edge. And I'm just going to push down pretty lightly and just kind of draw around. You know, and then maybe draw over here and just kind of make one big blob. But then I'm leaving this bottom right area just completely untouched. So you can make even a couple layers if you want. So if you pick up your brush and then set it back down, it kind of darkens it in certain areas. So we want a lot of variation. Okay, so this is our initial blob here. So then I'm just going to kind of make some more darker blobs in certain areas here, still pretty big, kind of just to add some more variation, like so. But again, all within my initial blob for the most part. Okay, so now we'll go to our layer menu, we'll add a new layer. We will click on it and set it to a clipping mask. And we will grab the next color in line, the fourth one on the second row. And same size and everything, we're just going to go around again pretty lightly and draw just some more blobs. But now we can kind of split them up, so not just one big blob. We're going to kind of stay inside our main blob shape, but then we can just draw a few separate kind of blobby areas of varying like darknesses. And it's okay if you go off your main blob. Sometimes it doesn't have to be perfect. So something kind of like this. We'll go to our layer menu, we'll add a new layer, we will click on it and set it to a clipping mask, and now we are going to grab our second darkest color, the fifth one on the second row. We'll drop our brush size down to like 10% to start, and now we'll just kind of make some more really distinct, smaller blob areas. So, you know, with our smaller brush size and darker color, we'll just kind of go around and, you know, again, pretty lightly for now. We'll darken it up in a minute, but, you know, we'll make one there. We'll make one over here. Make one over here. I might even add just a little bit down here, like towards the edge, just to get kind of a darker color there. Just to kind of add some more, and then I'll just go back in and I'll just kind of darken it up in some areas. And now I'll decrease the size even further to like 5%, and I will just go in and add, you know, a second little layer of this in certain areas as well, just to really darken it up and just create, again, more blobs, smaller this time. Like so. And then next we will grab the very darkest gray, the 6th one on the second row. We'll drop our brush size even further to like 3%, really tiny. And I am just going to focus kind of on the edges of some of these dark blobs to give an even darker color there. So just kind of little blobs, kind of even just like almost just on the edges as like an outline for some. Again, you can go over them multiple times to make them even darker. But we want a good few of these around for some really dark areas. Kind of pushing lighter in some areas just to, again, just increase some of the depth to some areas. Like so. Okay, and now we are going to make one more layer, and this is going to really make things just look so much more realistic. It looks kind of weird right now. It looks like one big blobby mess. But now we're going to add one more layer, set it to a clipping mask. The same dark color that we're on right now, I am just going to go through and add some really small little spots in some of these more open areas. So just some little tiny ones kind of throughout. Not a whole lot of them. Just add a lot more variation. And then we will also grab this lightest color, the last one on the second row. It is 7th in line, and we'll do the same thing. So now we have this whitish color, and we are going to add this on top of some of our darker colors that we made, again, in little blobs. So like we'll make a nice little blob here. And then we'll also add it just in our open areas to add some like just more variation again. So then essentially this is what we will be left with, and so it looks pretty realistic now with all the different things that we've added. So now it's up to you if you want to go back and do more, you totally can. So again, this is where our clipping masks come in handy. I might go back to my, let's see, so right above this is our main texture one. This is our first big blob that we made. I'm going to go back to my second blobby layer that we made. So mine is layer 5 here. I'm going to go back to my color that I used, which was this 4th one on the second row, and I might just add a little bit more to this layer. I feel like I could just use a little bit more depth in some places. So because it just kind of ended up to be very, very light overall, not a lot of dark areas. So a lot of light color. So I'm just going to kind of go through and add some more of this. And you can change your brush size as you go. You can do smaller, larger, whatever works. Okay, then I might even go to my next layer and add a little bit more of that as well. So again, just go through and add however much of this as you would like. And I'm going to leave mine about here. So I will zoom back out here, and now we can kind of place our globe. Now we want to be able to move our moon all together. So to do that, we are going to go to our layer menu and we are going to select all of our moon layers. So I'll start with my bottom moon layer here, the main circle layer. Slide right on every single layer above that, all the clipping masks, and then go ahead and click group. And then go ahead and we're going to add a glow to this in a little bit when we get it placed and stuff. So we don't want to sync them all together yet, so that's why we're just going to group them for now. But go ahead and click on this arrow to minimize the group, but then with this group area selected here, we can click our arrow tool and we can move it all at once. And it's going to be hard to center it exactly because of all of our clipping masks. They all kind of add themselves as like a layer, and however far out you draw on them, which I must have drawn out this far on my main like texture layer, you know, that's what it selects. So, but that's okay. We will still just set it to uniform, downsize it as much as you would like to. We do need room for the little brace around our moon that holds our moon to our mount, which is going to be on the bottom here. So just kind of place it however you would like for that. Try to get it mostly in the center from left to right, and then it'll be a little bit above center from top to bottom to make room for our mount at the bottom that it will be connected to. So I'm going to place mine roughly here. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I will go ahead and turn that off. So that is where I'm going to place this. So now we can do the glow to our moon. So to do that, we are going to go to our layer menu, open up our little group here, find our moon layer, the big circle at the bottom, slide to the left and hit duplicate, click the one on the bottom, and this is the one that we are going to blur to get our nice glow in the background. So with this bottom one selected, go ahead and hit our wand icon, hit Gaussian Blur, and we're going to slide this one up pretty high to maybe like 35%, somewhere in there. Okay. And then that's not quite enough of a glow for me, so we are going to do this again. We are going to do a little bit less of a blur this time, so it's more condensed. So we're going to make another duplicate of our main circle layer here. Again, grab the bottom one, so it should be on top of our big blur that we just did, but below our main circle layer that everything's clipped to. Click our wand icon, Gaussian Blur again, and we'll maybe just do this one to like 15%, somewhere in there. So see how that looks? I still want mine to be just a teeny bit brighter, but I think more so the background one I want to be brighter. So my big blur one, I'm going to make a duplicate of that one. So I will find that one on my layer menu here at the bottom of all of my circle layers, slide to the left and hit duplicate, and now you'll see that one got a lot brighter. So maybe not quite that bright, so I'm going to click the N on one of these to open it up and drag the opacity down to like 50%. 60%, somewhere in there. So now we have like roughly like 1.5 layers of glow plus our closer glow that we added as well. So just kind of mess around with those as long as you would like till you get to a place where you like the way it looks. And now we are going to merge all of these layers. So if you like the way things look, if you might want to mess around with them later, go ahead and just leave these as is and you can mess around with them later. But if you are happy with the way that they look, the glow and the moon itself, we are going to go to our layer menu, and on the top where it says new group, we are going to click on it and click flatten. So that means that everything is all on one layer now, like so, and none of the clipping masks should have popped up. You shouldn't essentially see anything outside of your moon shape aside from like the glow in the background, but none of the layers that you created earlier should like stick out of your moon shape after you flatten it, so make sure that doesn't happen. If it does, just leave it in a group, but you should be able to flatten it like I did and have it all be together like this. So again, we are just going to leave it placed here, and we are going to move on to our little axis and mount that this is connected to be our globe. So to do that, we are going to go to our layer menu, add a new layer above all of our layers so far, grab the first color on the last row of our color palette, switch back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab, and the first thing we're going to do is again draw a circle. So this time we'll make the circle like around our moon shape. So make a circular shape, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it a perfect circle. So click the arrow tool, set it to uniform, and this is where we'll do our resizing and placement and stuff. So first of all, make sure that snapping is turned on in the bottom left. So that is going to help us center it on our circle. So we want to center it as best we can. If yours isn't working right because of your clipping mask still being active, that is fine. You're just going to have to eyeball it. So just kind of eyeball how it's centered from top to bottom, left to right. It looks even all the way around. And then essentially we just want to size it to where there is a small gap, not really a small gap, but a decent sized gap in between our moon and the edge of our little axis here. So we are going to make another circle layer outside of this that will make the thickness of our axis here. We don't want it to be so thin, but this one will stay the same. So we're going to draw one outside of it. So this distance between the moon and this circle is going to make up the little ring that holds our moon. So we will draw like the little axis behind it. So you want a decent amount of room. So something about like this is what we should go for. So place it where you would like and size it how you would like. And then we are going to go to our layer menu, make a duplicate of this circle layer. Whichever one is selected is fine. Click the arrow tool on uniform, increase the size a little bit, and then recenter it on our other circle layer. So you should be able to center it with our previous circle with snapping turned on. It should kind of snap to, again, like it should be even all the way around, but make it just a little bit bigger here with a little bit of a gap in between, and this will be the thickness of the little ring here that we will use to hold our moon. Okay, so once you have that placed where you would like, go ahead and go to your layer menu and snap these two rings together so they're all on one layer. And then drag and drop your color to fill in any gap if you have one. So now we are going to get rid of the right side of this circle, essentially, the upper right corner kind of. So we are just going to be on this circle layer, click our selection tool, set it to freehand with color fill turned off. And essentially, I'm going to cut a little bit under half of the circle from this like top right corner out of my picture. So we are just left with like this bottom left corner that's going to be like a little bit over halfway. So we're not going to cut exactly halfway in between, but a little bit to the right of that. So I'm just going to find like this top left corner here, go a little bit to the right of that, click outside my circle here. I'm going to make a dot with my selection tool. I'm going to go down here to the bottom right corner, also to the right of that. So it's just kind of like a straight line here this way, and then make another dot there. And that makes a nice straight line through my circle. And this right area is what we'll get rid of. So if you don't like your selection, go ahead and undo it. I might do mine just a little bit further down to select a little bit more of it. Like so, and then I'm going to just tap all the way around a few times to get this outer area selected till I get back to the beginning. Click the arrow tool and then drag that off the screen. Okay, so now we just need to do the teeniest little bit of adjustment to this. So when you zoom in like on the bottom right side here, this little bit here, it wouldn't cut at an angle like this. It would cut at an angle like perpendicular to our circle. So we'll just grab our eraser tool on the monoline brush. I will set it to about 50%. And I'm just going to draw a straight line with my eraser right here, hold it down, and then go ahead and click edit at the top. And I'm just going to find a nice angle here. So these two corners should almost be like right angles, closer to that. Click my eraser tool to get rid of anything else. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So again, it's at kind of a weird angle. I'm just going to erase a line at a better angle, hold it down, click the line button at the top to adjust it, and just adjust it to where it's a little bit better, and then erase anything else. Okay, so that is that for my ring there. Okay, so now that that's done, I do feel like I need just a little bit more room to make my base, because we're going to make a hole down the center and then the base as well. And I feel like this is all just a little bit too big, but I don't want to adjust things separately because that'll mess everything up. So I want to adjust it all as one shape. So to do that, we'll go to our layer menu, and if your moon is still in a group, go ahead and select the group area at the top with all your clipping masks, and then slide right on your little ring layer here. Click the arrow tool on uniform and downsize this all as one layer or as one shape, and go ahead and place that a little bit better. Again, just somewhere close to the center of your canvas, closer to the top of our picture here, like so. So that just gives us a little bit more room beneath to work with. So we are now going to make the base. So let's go to our layer menu. We'll add a new layer above everything. Same color, this first color on the last row. Same monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. We'll set this to about 50%. And we are just going to draw the base, which is going to be an oval. So we will draw a nice oval shape at the bottom like so. Hold it down and touch your finger to the screen, and it should make it like a horizontal oval. That's how it should snap. It should not snap to a circle. If yours snaps to a circle, that just means you drew it a little too close to a circle shape. So just redo it and try to make it a little more oval-like so that you can snap it to like a nice horizontal oval like so. So we'll kind of size it and just keep it horizontal. Okay. And then we actually don't want to click edit at the top because we want to keep it horizontal. So we're just going to go ahead and fill it in first. So now with our arrow tool, if you need to move it around, you can move it around. If you need to resize it, you can resize it either on uniform or freeform if you want to make this like skinnier from top to bottom. So it doesn't have to be super skinny from top to bottom, but just maybe something about like this. And then again, just kind of try to center it as best you can under our little axis here that we're going to have. Okay, and now to make our base 3D, we are going to go to our layer menu, make a duplicate of this oval layer. So slide to the left and hit duplicate, grab the bottom one, and we are going to fill this in with a darker color. So it's going to be the second color on the last row of our color palette. Drag and drop to fill it in. You won't see it fill in because it's behind our lighter one, but go ahead and click the arrow tool and drag it down just a little bit, and you'll see the darker one now sticking out. Okay, so just drag it a good ways and keep it nice and centered with our top one, which is when you'll see these 3 blue lines here. And then we are going to grab our brush tool again with our monoline brush selected at 50. And we are just going to essentially connect the sides here on this darker lower layer. So we'll leave our top layer alone, but we'll be on this bottom darker layer with our darker color and our monoline brush. So I'm just going to start at the very edge here of this darker shape and draw a line straight up, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it a perfectly vertical line, and then go ahead and click edit at the top and just drag it around until it's just nicely merges these 2 layers together without like sticking out too far or being in too far. We just want a nice connection there, like so. If there's any other blank space here, go ahead and fill that in. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side here. Draw a line, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly vertical, click edit, and go ahead and drag it around to connect these nicely, and then go ahead and fill in any blank space again. So that is it for our base layers here to make the base of our globe. So next is this bar in the middle, and that is going to have to be on top of our ovals but below our ring layer here. So we're going to do a little bit of moving around. So essentially on our layer menu here, we're just going to drag our ring layer to the very top so it's above our ovals. Okay, and then our ring layer is going to start as a very tiny oval that is going to be exactly the same as this one. So to do that, we are going to again make a duplicate of our top oval layer here. So slide to the left and hit duplicate. This time we'll grab this top one that we have. So it should be right below our ring layer, above our main oval layer here. We will first fill it in with a different color so that we can see it better. So it's going to be the fourth color on the last row, this little bit lighter color. Drag and drop to fill it in. Then we will click our arrow tool on uniform and we will drag this down to be very, very small and kind of stick it right in the center of our oval here. So you should see two blue lines like in a cross pattern like so. That means you're directly in the center. So this is going to be the thickness of our little pole here that connects our base to our ring. So make it as big or as small as you want. I'm going to make mine about like so. If you continue to resize it, just make sure to recenter it again. And then now we're just going to make a vertical line on each side to connect it underneath our ring here. So same monoline brush, I'm going to drop my size down to like 20%. And I'm going to start on the left side here, the very, very left side, start there, draw a straight line up, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly vertical, and then just let it stop right below our ring layer there. So it just goes right behind it. Go ahead and click edit at the top and just again drag it around until it's nicely connects this to this in a nice straight line with no gap or anything like that. We'll do the same thing on the right side here. Again, align, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen, click edit and move it around until it's in a good spot. Like so. And then we'll just draw a line here at the top to connect them together so that we can fill in this shape here. So now this is what we have. Okay, now we're going to add all the highlights and shadows to all of these different pieces. And we'll just go piece by piece on each one to add the shadows and highlights. So we will start with our bottom-most layer here, which is our bottom oval layer, the darker one. Click on that layer on the layer menu and set it to alpha lock. And that was the second color on the third row of the color palette. So we are first going to start with this third color on the bottom row, the darkest one. And for the brush, we are going to use the soft brush under the airbrushing category. We are going to set this to maybe 5%. And I am just going to work in kind of diagonal motions, you know, like this. And I'm just going to start on the far left side, add a nice shadow there till we get to about maybe a third of the way through. Leave a little gap, and then I'll make another shadow kind of again in a diagonal kind of motion, keeping my diagonals the same all the way around. So we'll do that with all of our different pieces like so. Okay, then we'll grab the fourth color on the last row, which is a little bit lighter than our base color was, and we are going to make some really skinny highlights. So we are going to drop our size to maybe 2 or 3%, somewhere in there. Okay, and I will just very lightly add a little diagonal highlight right there, and then another one over here in this lighter area as well. So just kind of in the middle of our lighter areas, like so, trying to keep the same diagonal motion for each. And that is it for our bottom layer there. So now we'll move on to our next layer above it, this other oval. Click on this layer on the layer menu and set it to alpha lock. So we used the first color on the last row of the color palette for our base color. So we will use the second color for our shadow. So grab the second color on the bottom row. Same soft brush, we'll increase the size again to like 5 to 7%. And I will again focus this in a diagonal motion. First on the left side, and then maybe one stripe through kind of the middle, like so. Okay, and then we'll grab our fourth color on the last row and we'll add a little bit of a highlight with this at a decent size still, so like 4 to 5%. Kind of just right in this middle area here, just a little bit of a highlight, so a pretty thick one, not like our little tiny ones below. We'll add those in a second in a different color, but we're just gonna add a little bit of a highlight in a bigger area like so. Now we'll make the really tiny ones, so we will grab the next color in line, the fifth one on the last row. We will drop our brush size down pretty small, again to 2 or 3%, and I'm just going to very lightly make a nice skinny line like so in a diagonal, make another one over here, and maybe make a second one over here as well, so we'll have 2 over there. Okay, and then lastly on this oval layer here, we need to make a shadow underneath where our little post is in the middle. So we will grab our darker color, the third one on the bottom row. And again, with our very small size, we will just make a tiny little shadow right at the base of this, kind of coming off of each side and then a little bit in front, like so. Okay, now we will move on to the post. So we are going to find our post layer on our layer menu, click on it and set it to alpha lock. That was made with this fourth color on the bottom row, so we will use the first color on the bottom row to make our shadow. So grab the first color on the bottom row, same soft brush, we'll increase the size again to like 5%, and we will make kind of a shadow on this left side here, pretty much, you know, covering almost the left 2/3 of it there. We'll make another little bit of a shadow with this second color on the bottom row on the very, very left side. So just add that a little bit more. So we just kind of have almost, you know, 3 colors going across now. And then we'll also add a tiny shadow underneath our ring here, kind of in the same direction as our ring, like so. And then we'll add just the teeniest little bit of a highlight with this fourth color on the last row, just on the very right side here. Just add a teeny little bit of that. No streaks through the pole like we did on our base. So now we are going to move on to our ring. So find that layer on our layer menu, click on it and set it to alpha lock. And we'll do a similar thing here. So we're not going to do any shadows. We are only going to do highlights. Since it's right next to our moon, it's going to be a lot of highlights. So we used the first color on the last row for the initial color. We'll start with this fourth color, which is a little bit lighter. We will have our brush at about 5. And I'm essentially going to do roughly halfway through this whole, halfway to 2/3 through this whole bar here. So on the innermost side, closer to our moon, we're going to add this color all the way down. Okay. Then we'll grab the next color in line, the fifth one on the bottom row, and we'll leave our size at about 4 or 5%. We'll zoom in here though, and we're just going to touch this right on the very inner edge, all the way down to add a nice brighter highlight there, all the way down. So that adds a nice highlight from our moon. And then we are going to add a few streaks through this as well. And we are going to do that with our brightest color, the sixth one on the bottom row. So switch to that, drop our brush size again to like 2 to 3%. Okay, so we're going to try to match the same angles that we have down here. Very, very lightly, we'll just add a few of these. So maybe we'll do 2 together, one like a little thicker, one thinner. Go down here, maybe add another one just by itself. Maybe another one up here with a very, very light one next to it as well. So we'll just add a few different sections of that. It's hard when we get up here to match the same angles. It's just kind of like an optical illusion trying to get the same angle, because then it just goes like straight off. Goes like straight through everything that we have, so we're not going to add any up there. So just a few down at the bottom here, you know, in varying areas like so. Or you can leave them off entirely, and that is not bad either because we have such a bright glow from our moon. That is totally fine as well. So whichever you want to do, I will leave my highlights on. You can also leave them off the base if you don't like them. I kind of added them last minute. I'm not sure if I like them or not, so you can really just go either way. Okay, so now we will add the pole going through our moon in the background. So we are going to add that on the very bottom, right above our background color, so right above layer 1, right under our moon. Add a layer there. Grab the darkest color, the 7th one on the bottom row, and we will switch back to our monoline brush at 50%. And I'm just going to draw one straight line from a little bit inside the edge here I'm going to draw a straight line all the way through, hold it down. No need to touch your finger to the screen or anything, but just kind of try to make it match up at a similar point. So I'm just a little bit in at the top, I'll be a little bit in at the bottom. It's hard to see with the glow of our moon, but it is back there. So find a good spot where you like it and then leave it there, and then we'll go over to the left a little bit on our top one, draw another line, hold it down till it turns perfectly straight, and just again try to match that same angle, so the same width between our lines there and at the bottom. And then we will go ahead and just fill those in. I'm just going to fill them in with my pen on each side, since we don't really need it to go all the way through. So again, it's hard to see it, but it is there, and that's all we want, is for it to definitely be there in the background. So lastly, we will add all the stuff to our kind of outer edge, the stars and the clouds and stuff. So we'll add that on a new layer at the very top of our layer menu. We will grab the brightest color on the bottom row, the 6th one in line. Same monoline brush, we'll drop our size again back to 20%. And the first thing we're going to do is draw a star. So I'm just going to draw a perfect star, however you draw them. So I start at the bottom left here and I go up, down, and around. Hold it down when you're done drawing all the edges, and it'll snap to a perfectly straight shape. Then you can click edit at the top and you can adjust all of your angles and lines and stuff to make it a little bit better. You might have one like this that has 2 dots on it, or it might come together at 2 dots at the end, but just try to make everything line up nicely as it should into a nice star shape. You can make it wonky, or you can make it like perfectly straight, whatever you would like. And then go ahead and fill in all the different areas, either with the color dropper or your pen, whatever works better. Okay, so there's my star. It's a little bit big. I'm just going to click my arrow tool on uniform and downsize it a little bit, like so. And then I'm just going to make a few copies of it. So I'm going to go to my layer menu, make a duplicate of my star layer, and just kind of move them around. So maybe I'll make this one like up a little higher on the left side. Make another duplicate. Maybe we'll make this down to the left. Another duplicate. Maybe we'll put like right here, or out a little further. Probably just going to end up with like 4 in varying areas, like so, 4 big stars. So let's go to our layer menu and just snap these onto the same layer. So make as few or as many as you would like of those. Okay, and then with our stars all on one layer, we will add a new layer above that we will make our clouds on. So we'll use the same color, same monoline brush, and I'm just going to make some little cloud shapes in some of these open spaces. So maybe I'll make one here, and again, pretty little ones. So I'll first make a straight horizontal line for the bottom of them. So we'll just make a straight line, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly horizontal, just a little line, and then I'll make 3 hills on the top to connect each side together, and then go ahead and fill that in like so. So you can hold the hills down if you want to make them perfectly smooth, or you can just draw them kind of fast and just leave them as is. So I'll draw one there. Maybe I'll draw another one down here. So that one got kind of wobbly on me, so I did hold that one down to make it nice and smooth. And then again, just fill that in. And I'm just going to kind of keep things like in a little circle area here around my moon. So I'm not going to go any further down below my base. And I'm just going to kind of like almost have it be like a circle here and then a circle here, you know, going around my moon here. So then I will make another cloud up here. Like so. So I'm just going to go with 3. So once I have 3 laid down there, I am going to go to my layer menu, and we're just going to make these a little bit more faded. So click on the N to open up the options for this layer, and we'll just drag the opacity down to maybe like 60 to 70%, somewhere in there. So I'll end up at 65. And then we are going to make the edges of the clouds just a teeny bit blurry like a cloud would be. So we are going to click our wand icon, click Gaussian Blur, and we'll drag this up to no more than 5%, maybe even less, like 3 or 4, somewhere in there. Okay. And then now we are going to make a bunch of little stars, and we'll do that back on our original star layer here with our 4 stars on it. I just wanted to lay the clouds down first so that we knew where to draw our little stars. So we'll go back to this layer, same color, same monoline brush. We'll set this to about 75%. And I'm just going to make some little dots as stars to kind of fill out the rest of our picture now. Again, just kind of keeping everything in like a nice circle around our moon, so not going any further below our base or anything. Adding a few at the top. And just kind of close to our moon as well. So again, just kind of fill things out pretty nicely. And then the very last thing that we'll do here is add a slight glow to our stars like we did with our moon. So to do that, we'll go to our layer menu, make a duplicate of this star layer, select the bottom one, click our wand icon, Gaussian Blur, and we'll drag this up again to maybe like 8 to 10%, somewhere in there, to get a nice glow behind our stars in the sky. So with that done, that is our final step. So that completes our picture today. So I hope you had fun. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more tutorials from me in the future. If you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, I would love to see it. So go ahead and post it and then tag me so that I can check it out. While you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching.